They attached the key to the chain that came out of the ventilation hole from the outside, then inserted the key inside.
Here's the thing about this. What a stunningly complex way to achieve nothing. Like, if you had just stolen it and also taken the key, they would still have nothing.
If Mitsuko-san was the culprit, there would be no need for her to put this lock in the mismatched room after stealing it.
Thinking. Well, I see what it's saying. It's saying if she had stolen it, then why would she have left the key here? Except that this, I feel like there's something between a translation error and just that's not the best logic going on. We should be trying to show why Mitsuko didn't do it, but instead we seem to be trying to show why she didn't do exactly the ridiculous, the situation that, what's-his-face explained.
Rather, the culprit would have made it look like forced entry from the outside.
That's what I meant by locked. Rather, it should have been made to look like a foreigner has been killed. It should have been made to look like a foreigner has been killed.
From the situation, it seems that Mitsuko-san is not the culprit.
He's probably not a racist. She's probably not a racist.
Could it be possible that the owner is a culprit?
So is it possible that the owner is a human being?
The possibility of the owner framing Mitsuko-san for bringing out the eel and hiding the evidence themselves. Because the owner would have... No, that's not it!
P.S. This game quits itself if you don't play for long enough, so I can't imagine why that would be a problem. Let's see, how much progress we just lost. Okay, not much. Could it be the owner? Speclad asks what happened. OBS crashed. OBS crashed. You know, sometimes OBS crashes. Okay, let's see why the owner is a criminal. No motive, no evidence, no key. No, sorry. This is why the owner isn't a criminal. He has no motive. He was not angry at her, so he doesn't want to blame her, and he wouldn't have gotten any insurance money. Yeah, there we go. That one I actually got correct. That's right. You've done it.
The owner has no motive to steal the eel.
The ostensibly broke senior crashed his car for the insurance money, says Erdrick in chat. Started getting into Detective Conan in early 2022, says Kudera-kun in chat. Well, I didn't, Kudera-kun, so if you know anything I'm missing, tell me. Why is ChatGPT insisting on translating it as eel now?
Even if the eel was stolen and the incident was reported, there wouldn't be any money received, as insurance was not applied for the eel.
If you don't have insurance, you won't get any money for repairing the stolen item.
Without any particular grudge against Mitsuko-san.
Yeah, okay, and he didn't have any reason, like, he wouldn't get insurance money, and he didn't have anything against, Mitsuko. Character of Genta loves eating eels, says Kudera-kun in chat. Well, I suspect that this is more just ChatGPT being insane rather than anything about knowing the characters at all. This is translated by ChatGPT. The first translation is ChatGPT. The second translation is Google Translate.
It is also unlikely that the crime was framed to incriminate Mitsuko-san.
I don't think he was trying to make a sacrifice to help Mikiko stack the blocks. Google Translate. Try harder, Google.
It doesn't seem like Mitsuko-san is the culprit. Neither does the owner!
Yeah, okay, so neither of them. Then who is it? Then who done it? I think that when it does that reloading, where the screen blanks and the mouse cursor resets, that's when it's saving.
The culprit is neither Mitsuko-san nor the owner!
Okay. Audio randomly cutting out, that's probably fine.
In that case, it would be considered an outside job, as humans say.
You're a human, aren't you? I'm pretty sure you're a human. You know, as humans say, like us, we humans say this. Has this whole game been one case, or are there a bunch of cases? Asks Kudera-kun in chat. So far, it's been one case, and I've been playing for 2 hours, but I'm certain there's gonna be more cases.
Then how did the culprit steal the eel from the safe?
Where did the word eel come from? How did the burglar manage to steal the secret? It started, Kudera-kun, with, like, them doing sort of play mysteries in the park. Then it came to this. What is eel supposed to be? It's supposed to be painting, Kudera-kun. I don't know why ChatGPT has gone insane and decided that when it says painting, it means eel.
If the door was locked, they must have entered from outside the room. They're coming from outside the house.
Yeah, I don't know. This is the thing with AI-based translation. It's usually good, but when it goes wrong, it goes really off the rails.
Through the window? No, that's not it. Because the window
wasn't broken and has bars. There are many reasons why it wasn't that. Footprints, window still dust, signs of there were no signs of forced entry. We didn't see any messages about dustiness. We certainly didn't see any footprints. There were no signs of forced entry. Doo-doo!
That's right!
Has Sonoko gotten any screen time yet? Well, given that I don't know who that is, I'm gonna go with Sonoko. However, the actual answer is probably yes, and I just don't know what any of the characters' names are because it doesn't give them names, it just shows their portrait.
That's because the window had anti-burglar devices attached to it.
The window had a guardrail to keep thieves out. You know, a guardrail. She's the rich girl who's Ran's friend. Well, we haven't seen Ran, and we haven't seen anyone rich, so I'm gonna go with no. She has short hair that looks blonde or light brown. Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think we've seen her.
It would be impossible to break that security device, enter, and then restore it to its original state.
Erdrick knows. Erdrick knows better, so he can... If he says so, then that's right.
The window is also locked!
It's interesting, we have to go like one by one through why everything isn't the solution before Conan finally tells us what is the solution.
With that security device in place, it would be impossible to enter from the window using any trick!
We're here for the music, Kudera-kun. It's all about the music. Looks like this game might predate Hiabara, says Kudera-kun in chat. This console is later than you think. This console is like 2004 or something.
In that case, it seems the culprit did indeed enter from the door of the safe.
The door of the... like the door to the gallery, right, yes. They opened the gallery door, fine. They entered through the gallery door. Introduced in 1999. It could be. It could have been there. Kudera-kun.
How did the culprit open the safe door? Enter the safe.
Why do you think it's a safe full of eels? It's a gallery full of art.
And then exit the safe and lock it again.
How did they get into this safe full of eels and or gallery full of art? Bye, mouse cursor. Hope you're having fun.
Did they use methods like lockpicking to open the safe door with something from outside the room?
No, because there was no sign of forced entry on the entrance door either.
No, that's not it, because...
like the same reason? Exact same reason? Oh, mouse cursor's going that way now. The mouse cursor's on an adventure. The latest model key, lockpicking tools, lockpicking technique. Well, we know all of that. I was thinking it was because there was no sign that there was any lockpicking, but we do know that it's the ultimate key. I mean, there's only one of these that we actually know, so I'm going with the latest model key. Doo-doo!
That's correct! That's because the safe was equipped with the latest model key for anti-lockpicking!
Garo had a lock on his lockpicking hat! Both of those were wrong because it's a gallery, not a safe, but at least ChatGPT didn't invent a lockpicking hat.
Even after examining the keyhole, there were no marks suggesting it was picked.
I checked the local and found no signs of picking. Yeah, that's the thing I thought that I was going to be pointing out, but instead it was like, no, this key is too new.
In that case, it appears the culprit used the key properly to open the door. However, based on Mikiko's account, it is unthinkable that the culprit has made a duplicate key.
I don't see why it is. I don't see why it does not take very long to make a duplicate key.
If that's the case, then the culprit. If so, then Hanin is.
It would be funny if the culprit is, in fact, Mikiko.
Use one of the 3 keys for the safe door,
For the gallery door.
to open it.
My question is, where is Richard? Conan doesn't usually do his sleuthing openly, says Erdrick in chat. Oh, is that so? Like, there's usually, there's the presumably adult character who, is his sleuth beard.
Which key did they use? I wonder.
Ah, was it Mikiko's key, the owner's key, or the spare key? I think it was the spare key. We have a pretty good suggestion that it was not either of the other two, but we don't have an alibi from the key. I mean, it seems pretty unlikely either way, but, you know, obviously it's going to be unlikely. But I like Google Translate's translation. The key that was left in the garage. Key. Yes! I feel so good when I get that. Doo-doo! Are you smarter than a 5-year-old?
That's right. It's the key placed in the safe.
Started out with the Junior Detective League. Those cases often didn't involve Richard/Kagoro, says Kudera-kun in chat. Yeah, it started off with the Boys Detective League, which then became the Teen Detective League. Anything but the actual translation, Kudera-kun. ChatGPT obviously does not know this specific source material, so it's doing its best. It's a chat bot, not a translator.
Both Mikiko and the owner said it was unthinkable that their own keys were stolen and used by the culprit without them noticing and then returned.
Detective Boys is the direct translation from the Japanese. The name I used came from the dubs of the anime. Oh, interesting, Kudera-kun. Because there are girls, and so boys seems like an odd choice, but then it could, you know, that could just be a translational thing that, like, it really just means children or whatever.
In other words, it means that the key placed in the safe was used by the culprit.
I wish it would start saying the word gallery. However, Enodonan? Who is that? Oh, when the owner, okay. Well, no. However, somebody
confessed that in reality, when the owner left the shop last, he mentioned that the safe was locked on the bookshelf.
The key was in the bookshelf.
The safe's dial was left open.
The gold ring was... Yeah, okay. The key was left on the shelf. It was on the shelf. If there are 2 girls, there are, then one of those is Haibara. She's the other character who, like Conan, is actually a teenager. No spoilers. We're not supposed to... Well, I don't know. I guess we are supposed to know that, aren't we?
If the culprit used the key left in the shop to enter the shop after the owner left.
That's not a spoiler. It's the premise of the show. Okay, fine.
How did the culprit obtain the key?
Okay, this is tricky, because... This is finally, we're doing some deduction here rather than just repeating the evidence. Bought the same key, switched the key, made a duplicate key. I really feel like a duplicate is entirely possible, but the game has been so loud about, like, well, there's absolutely no way that a duplicate could have possibly been made. And we know that it can't have been switched. Well, no, we don't know that it can't have been switched. But it doesn't add up for it to be switched. Because the key that was there in the morning was the right one. Bought the same key makes no sense, but the other 2 are both impossible. Nope.
No, that's not it, not that. There's no way that could be possible.
Yeah, there's no way you could buy the same key because keys aren't, in any way predictable with codes that allow you to replicate the exact same key.
Wait a minute! On that day before closing time, the culprit came to the safe!
To the gallery. So it's going to be switched. Even though they were pretty loud about the fact that they can't have switched the key.
What if they replace the key attached to the safe dial
with it? God, ChatGPT is like hallucinating so much about the safe. There is no safe, ChatGPT.
The owner locked the shop door with their own key, so...
The pirate-like safe dial, says Meglad in chat. Exactly. Might have to do with how confusing kanji can be, says Conan in chat. Yeah, so this is like... Translating Japanese into English is the final frontier, and as compared to Google, like the reason I have Google Translate here is because it does such a hilariously bad job that even when ChatGPT screws up, by comparison, it's like, yeah, look at what an amazing job ChatGPT is doing.
They probably didn't realize that the key to the safe had been switched with a different one.
Yeah, why would he know? He saw a key on the shelf.
If that's the case, the culprit stole the painting and went to the safe during the time the shop was open.
So they get that a shop is involved, but they keep calling the shop a safe too.
After switching the key to the safe with a different one, they came back during closing time.
He replaced the book with a different one and came back to Heitengo.
And used that key to enter the safe
or the cave. Certainly not the gallery. But we still need, how did he swap it out to get back out? Because it was the correct key that was here.
And then stole the painting, exited the shop, locked the door from the outside, and made it look like a locked room mystery.
And then he stole the picture, went outside the store, and locked the door again, leaving him completely alone.
Then how did the culprit lock the door to the safe room?
You mean how did he get the key back in? Well, okay, they're the same question. Picked it closed. Didn't lock the door is an interesting question. Or an interesting option. I like the idea that I love all of this. All of these options are plausible, which tells me whatever I choose I'm going to be wrong. You can pick a lock closed, and it's easier to pick a lock closed than to pick it open. If he used the key, then the question becomes, how did he get the key back in? And we spend a lot of time talking about why it's impossible that he got the key back in. But what if he just didn't lock the door? If you try to unlock an unlocked door, you might not notice the difference. You can't pick it closed because it's the latest model, says Specklad. I'm wrong again! I am not smarter than a child!
Not that! The door was locked when the owner arrived on the same day that was actually the next day. There were no signs of picking on the keyhole.
So it was the other option. Didn't lock it. Or no, sorry, use the key.
The culprit used a key to lock the door after all.
The man also used a key to lock the door.
The culprit left the safe with the key in hand.
This is the slowest detective mystery I've seen, says Specklad. That's mainly because we're doing translation.
And locked the safe room door from the outside, making it a locked room mystery.
Conan's actually a high schooler who got shrunk. In this world, kids being detectives is weird, but high school is perfectly normal somehow, says Gudera. I did point that out when, who was it that... So somebody else told me that was the background, and I said, what a bizarre bit of background, because, like, if he's 17, that's not, like, that's still weird.
In that case, the question is, how did they put the key back on top of the safe at that time?
How did they get the key back to the shelf? We know it can fit through the vent.
Just as Mitsuhiko did.
As if Mitsuhiko had sunk into the water.
If you reach through the ventilation hole, you can put the key inside the safe. One may consider using a string to reach the top of the safe. The method of carrying it may also work.
This is what we already discounted. We said this was impossible. We've already done this one.
So where did Mitsuhiko's method go wrong? First of all, the key was not just left there by itself, but was attached to a large metal ring.
It was not just lying around.
The key can pass through the ventilation hole, but passing the hole with that ring attached is impossible!
Yeah, it's too big with the ring attached. So how did it get on the ring on the shelf?
But there seems to be a way to do this. What should we do?
Okay, I have no idea. The Japanese love prodigies for some reason. That's why no one questions the high schooler detectives, as Matt's trying to chat. Expand the ventilation hole. Nonsense. Extend the ring. Nonsense. Place the ring near the ventilation hole. Place it. So I was actually thinking maybe they somehow had the ring inside and then there was some kind of like trick to get it, because like if you can pass a little bit of the ring outside, then you can get the key onto it. So the fact that 3 is actually matching what I was thinking in my head makes me want to think that. Expand the ventilation hole is nonsense. That's nothing. Extend the ring feels like utter nonsense too. So I'm gonna go with, yeah.
That's it! You did it!
Yep. Oh, because it was on a chain on the ring. I even mentioned, like, I made a joke about how many weird steps there were happening here when they mentioned that.
There is no need to pass the ring through the hole.
There's no need to tell me anything.
Place that metal ring near the ventilation hole.
Put that gold ring next to the museum.
You just need to pull the chain to the outside, leaving the key attached.
As in, leaving the ring attached. The key ring.
The culprit pulled the chain out like that, then locked the safe room door with the key.
Something about ventilation hole sounds unintentionally dirty, says Kutera in chat.
They attached the key to the chain that came out to the ventilation hole from the outside, then inserted the key inside.
Here's the thing about this. What a stunningly complex way to achieve nothing. Like, if you had just stolen it and also taken the key, they would still have nothing.
They confirmed that they could reach the top of the safe with the metal ring and the key.
Okay, I don't know what that's trying to communicate.
They solved the problem with that metal ring. But there are still remaining issues. How did they confirm they could reach the top of the safe with that metal ring and key?
Yeah, okay. The Google Translate is actually better. How did they get the gold ring? Yeah, how did they get it to the shelf?
It seems that like Mitsuhiko's thread method, it is necessary to hook the thread somewhere on top of the safe.
To carry the 3-leaf thread like a lily, it seems that a place to hang the thread is needed somewhere on the shelf.
However, this time there was no place on the top or around the safe to hang the thread.
Yeah. So there were 2 major problems with that method. Therefore, let's assume that it's true and try to figure out how to work around those problems.
With this, they hung the thread somewhere and pulled it from the outside of the safe room.
Yeah, so hung it from where?
It was impossible to reach the top of the safe with the key. Even so, if the culprit somehow managed to use the thread to reach the key to the top of the shelf, what kind of method could be considered?
How did he do it? I have no clue again. Hopefully this will be 2 obviously stupid things and 1 correct thing. Set the thread, move it to another spot, put a weight on it. No, because the weight would still be there. Set the thread, I assume Google Translate is doing a better translation here. Connect it to something, but that was the problem before. There was nothing to connect it to. move it to another spot. I don't like any of these. I feel like moving it to another spot seems pointless. Because we know where it was. But thus, because it's nonsense, I kind of want to choose it. Because, like, it makes no sense. Wrong.
If there is no place to hang on top of the safe, they should move it to another spot. But the key was on top of the safe.